Well, hello everybody. I hope that you are all doing well. It is good to be back and making another video. I had a little bit of a YouTube hiatus here over the winter time. Just kind of took a break to focus on my family, my home, myself, and just rest a little bit, but it is good to be back. I thought that today would be a nice day to do an introductory video to the 2026 gardening season. We just got hit with a pretty significant snowstorm, which some of you may have as well, up and down kind of the 95 corridor. We're in Maryland here, and we ended up with maybe 5 inches of snow, but it's really wet and heavy. So I thought that I would just come out here real quick, knock some snow off some of the trees. Some of the trees were really drooping over really far to the ground this morning. I took some video footage of that this morning. It's looking a little bit better now. You can see that the wind is really starting to pick up, so it's really knocking some things off. But I just thought that, we just walk around, get some of that snow off, and then I have some seeds that I need to sow. I've been winter sowing. I have a whole stash on my deck that I will show you, and I have some more seeds that I really need to get going. It's the end of February, so it's the perfect time to do my winter sowing. And then we're just going to kind of experiment with a few different containers, a few different ways to do that, knock some of those things off of my list and get right back into all of this gardening stuff. It's really the beginning of the season. I think after the snow melts, we'll be really kind of speeding up into spring. So I am very, very excited. This is my crepe myrtle that was really drooping this morning. It was, that's fallen right on top of me. It was almost to the ground, some of these branches. So the wind has really done a nice job at knocking some of this snow off. But I thought that I would just come out and try to get a little bit more off before the wind picks up too much. It's going to be like 35, 40 mile an hour winds today. And some of these plants, like this one that has real kind of weak branches that tend to break a lot, like in the summer if we have a heavy rain, they will split easily. I thought it would be good to just kind of try to alleviate some of this weight from them so that they don't, end up losing, so that this doesn't end up losing too many branches. It's just falling on top of my head. We had, which I'm sure a lot of you have been dealing with, super, super cold weather this winter. We had that big storm about a month ago that much of the East had to deal with. We ended up with like 6 inches of snow maybe, and maybe 5 inches, and then 3 inches of heavy sleet on top of that. And luckily it didn't really stick to the trees that time, but it left a thick layer of ice all over. And we were literally buried in ice and snow for almost a month. We did not, see our grass, and we just now have been able to see our grass, and voila, we get another snowstorm. So that's how winter has been going this year for us, which I'm sure I'm not alone in that. I will go ahead and finish that crepe myrtle, but I'm looking over here to my right at my debunk boxwoods, and this is a prime example of why you want to come out and check on your plants. Look how these are just drooping over and about to probably break. They are looking really rough. They are an upright tall boxwood, but they do tend to do this in heavy snow and heavy rain. So I'm going to get these cleaned off ASAP before there's permanent damage done to these. One thing that I could do for these probably at the beginning of the winter is tie them up with twine, just kind of wrap the twine all around them just to keep them from splaying open like this. But hopefully these will bounce back okay. Snow really took these guys down. And that's kind of the case for any of your boxwoods. I have some boxwoods out front that have also taken a beating from the storms. They've just kind of splayed open, some of my round boxwoods. So I could prep them for the winter a little bit better and tie them up to make sure they're not drooping quite as much. There's my hydrangea. Okay, those are looking a little bit better. I also have this boxwood hedge along here that I'm gonna just gently try to get some of this snow off of so they don't splay open. These guys are looking pretty good. They were drooping over. These are my Rose of Sharon, my purple pillar Rose of Sharon. They were really bending over far this morning, but it looks like they balanced out pretty good. And we are probably going to give these a hard trim anyway this coming spring. So I'm not super concerned about them, but I figure it won't hurt to just go through and knock some of the snow off. This right here is my little lime hydrangea, so I'm not even going to worry about that because I'm going to be coming back real soon and cutting all of my hydrangeas back. So anything that, you know, you're going to be cutting back, like these Rose of Sharon, then it's probably not super imperative that you get the snow off of them. So I'm just going to let that go and walk down here to my red maple. So right here is my Twombly's Red Sentinel Japanese maple. That is a tiny little tree. So I am just going to come and gently knock the snow off of this, but look how pretty that looks. So pretty. But I am a little concerned. I don't want the branches to break because it's a very small tree. It doesn't grow quickly. So I'm going to get that cleaned up right here. And again, I have more hydrangeas here at the bottom that I'm not even going to worry about. Woo. Wind is blowing the snow right on my face. I'm finding that my hands are cold, but it's not actually super cold. It's maybe 33 degrees out, which is why I'm not wearing a hat. My head actually isn't really cold at all, but my hands are getting a little cold. So I'm going to try to speed this up a little bit. So these are all green giant arborvitaes that really do not need the snow taken off of them. They will be really resilient, and yeah, I'm not too worried about branches breaking on these guys. And I'll just take a quick little walk through my yard. I put these bird feeders here this winter that I have been loving, just watching the birds in the snow. This is another thing that I'm gonna come out. There was snow all at the base of the bird feeders, but it looks like the wind probably knocked it off. The birds couldn't get to the seed, but that's another thing that you might want to check on, just your birds and their food. And I do see I have this camellia down here that probably could use cleaned off. It's kind of buried in heavy snow, so I'm gonna come in and get that cleaned up. This guy need a little bit of breathing room here. You can see we have so many branches down from the river birch trees right above us. These are our neighbors' trees. They drop a ton of branches in the wind and snow. So we will have a lot of branches to clean up here in the near future. These are more hydrangeas that I'm just going to leave be. And I don't think anything down here needs cleaned off. This is mostly perennials, our serviceberry tree, and then more of our green giants. You can see the snow has really weighed down those branches at the bottom here. And this is a skip laurel hedge that I may just come in and knock a little bit. You can see right here that these branches are drooping quite a bit. So I'll do those really fast. All right, skip laurels are looking good. Over here, we don't have too much that needs attention. These hollies, I think, will be fine. They are strong and sturdy, so I'm not going to really worry about those too much. There might be some things out here in the front yard that I'm going to do, like on my boxwoods, over there in the corner bed and around the other side of my house. And all of this is mainly perennials in here, so I think we're good with that. And the red burnum are going to be okay right here. So I think my job out here is just about done and I am cold, so I'm going to go in and get started on those seeds. Before I get going on sowing some of these seeds, I wanted to show you winter sowing at its finest. Here's one of my seed containers. That is hiding larkspur in there, and then some of my winter jugs that I have already sowed this winter. Looking very wintry. All those seeds getting ready to sprout as the weather warms up here. So it's a few days later. We had a very busy day during that snowstorm. The kids were off from school. My husband was working from home. We had their friends in and out. So it just wasn't a very good day to try to film a video. So it is a couple days later. I have my seeds starting set up inside here. I am going to try to get most of my seeds sown today, not all on camera. That'll be a lot. That would be a lot of seeds, but I do want to get a lot of them done today. We are supposed to start warming up next week. I see a couple of days in the 30s, a little bit of snow, but then it looks like we're hopping into the 60s and the lows in the 40s. So I want to make sure that the seeds get enough cold or exposed to enough cold before the weather really starts warming up again. I'm sure March will be up and down, but definitely we will be on the upwards trend. So I'm just going to show you today a couple of containers that I'm trying this year that you can use to start your seeds in the winter time. Some I have used before, some I haven't. I have no indoor seed starting setup. I just haven't invested in that, and it's just a lot more work to keep the seeds watered and just make sure the conditions are right. If you are sowing your seeds outdoors in these containers in the winter, it is the most cost-effective, easiest way to start seeds. It is the easiest and cheapest way to get an abundance of flowers for your garden, to make sure they have that really full, lush look, attract lots of pollinators all summer long. So let's get started, and I'm gonna show you what I've got here on my kitchen table. Here is my whole seed starting setup. This is my little mini greenhouse here where I start all of my seeds, and actually these are going to be my mini greenhouses, are my containers. So these are just some examples of containers that you can use to start your seeds outdoors. This is just a water container that I have been collecting. This is the tall variety, and also you can use the shorter, regular, more traditional milk jug containers. This happens to be for water, but I do like the more opaque, is that the right word? Some of the milk containers are like white. We buy organic milk, and those containers are white, so the sunlight does not get through them as well as these more clear containers. So I do try to collect the clear containers over the winter, and I did just buy a bunch of water because I was running low on containers. So I did go and do that. So you can use both types of jugs, of water jugs or milk jugs, and you can use a gallon bag, Ziploc bag, and then underneath these I have this tray, this aluminum foil tray. This is a great thing to broadcast seeds that are real tiny. This will grow a lot of plants. I am going to use this for my foxglove, and I will show you those seeds in just a minute here. But these are the containers that I'm going to try. I've traditionally used the milk jug, the traditional milk jug looking container. I have not done any of these other containers. I have used some lower salad type containers. You can also do that. Just save your salad greens over the winter. You're going to need water. This mister is a great option for spraying the seeds when you're done, for just giving them a light mist. A watering can comes in handy for really moistening your soil. I'm going to be using a pair of gardening gloves today, and you want to have some plant markers to be able to tag what you are planting, what seeds you're planting. You're going to need some duct tape. I'm kind of running low on duct tape to seal the containers. A box cutter comes in real handy for cutting the containers open. You're gonna want some Sharpies or some garden markers to mark down what you're planting. And I use hot glue gun to poke holes in the bottom of some of my containers. So that comes in very handy as well. And then these are just a few of the seeds that I have that I'm going to be planting today. This one is pink saucer Japanese anemone. These bloom beautifully in the fall with delicate pink flowers. I just love them so much. I did grow some last year and want to grow more. This is from, let's see, swallowtail seeds. I do like to get seeds from Swallowtail, Select Seeds, Johnny's, Baker Creek, Park Seed. I go to my local garden centers. Sometimes I buy from the big box stores. This is another one from Swallowtail. This is a sweet pea mix. I love growing sweet peas, and now is the perfect time to start them because they love the cold temperatures, the cooler temperatures, and they need time to break down. The outer shell of the seed needs time to break down, so the constant moisture really helps to break that seed down. Let's see, this is the Dalmatian Purple Foxglove. I am super excited to try these. Foxglove are quickly becoming one of my favorite flowers to grow. I just love them in the garden so much. I'm gonna use them in this long container because the seeds are super tiny. And then this is from last year. It's a little bit dirty. This is also, I guess these are all from Swallowtail seed. This is Purple Top Verbena, Verbena bonariensis. I am growing a lot of this year to try out in my front beds. I love how they attract pollinators, beautiful purple flowers. So that's just a little collection of my seeds. I have a lot more seeds going out on the deck, but we are just gonna get started, and I'm gonna just go through some of these containers and show you the steps that I take to sow my winter seeds. So first I'm gonna do the anemone. I'm gonna use this water jug to sow these seeds. So I'm gonna take off this sticker just to allow as much light in as possible. I don't know how easily it's actually gonna come off, but we'll do our best job. Okay, well, it is not really coming off super easily, so I am just gonna let it go. I kind of bent that container a little bit, but that's okay. We will bend it back into shape. I have my box cutter knife. I'm going to be super careful. No injuries needed. So I'm gonna cut all around, starting from the handle here. You want to leave a little bit of the handle intact so that you can open and close the lid easily. I'm just going to cut. Doesn't matter if it's straight. Mine usually ends up getting pretty crooked, but that's okay. It does not have to be perfect. Keep going around. Okay, and then I'm gonna stop right about there so that the container can open and close nicely. And now I'm going to poke some holes in the bottom, and actually I could have done this first. That probably would have been easier because it would have been a little more sturdy of a container, but let's get the hot glue gun fired up and then we'll do some drainage holes in the bottom. Glue gun is nice and hot. You do not have to have glue in it. I wish that there wasn't glue in it because that kind of makes it more of a mess, but that's okay. We're just poking holes in the bottom. I just find that this is a really easy way to poke holes. I have tried using, a knife and poking holes that way, but this just gives such nice, easy, quick holes and works really well for me. So little tip here, just use your hot glue gun. We're just gonna do, I think, about 4 holes in the bottom of this container. Okay, that was easy peasy. And now we get to add the soil. So this is the soil I typically use. It's the Miracle Grow potting mix to start my flower seeds. If I'm starting herbs or vegetables, I use an organic potting mix, but this works really well for me for my flowers. And when I'm doing, mass seed starting, I do empty this into like a Home Depot bucket, and I do wet the soil all at once. But just for the ease of doing this video right now, I am just going to put the soil directly into the container and then wet the soil down in the container after I have this filled up. So we're gonna fill it just about from, I don't know, about an inch from the top. It will get compacted once we start adding the water. So I might need to add a little bit more. And another little tip is to, if you're doing this inside, get a little tray. This is just an old Christmas tree tray that went under the Christmas tree to catch any water overflow. And it works perfectly for catching all of my soil overflow too. It can be a messy job. Now we're gonna give this a good amount of moisture. You wanna start with soil that is quite moist, just to give it a good start outside so that you're not, dealing with dried out soil anytime soon. With the rain and the snow and all that moisture from outside, you really shouldn't have to water these very often, but if you're going through a dry spell, you do want to check on them and just make sure that they're not drying out. The soil should always be a little bit moist. You should always see some condensation on the container, just ensuring, nice moist environment for your seeds to start growing in. So I'm just gonna work this a little bit more. Almost feels like I probably got this a little more wet than I needed to. But you basically just want your soil to kind of hold together, not be totally dripping wet, but just kind of, be able to form it into almost like a ball, not really a ball, but just so that it's not crumbling from being too dry or dripping wet from being too moist. So like I said, this is a little bit, oh, there goes my dirt splattering all over the place. This is a little bit more wet than it really has to be. So as you can see, the soil did go down quite a bit. It compacted, and I could go in and add just a little bit more to kind of top it off. Maybe add just a little bit more water. Okay, so I think that's good. Now let's add in our seeds. We're gonna start with the anemone, like I said before, and you just want to read the seed packet, and it will basically tell you what depth that the seeds should be planted, any other special growing conditions. So this says to barely cover the seeds. There are 30 seeds in this packet, so I think that I'm going to probably end up doing 2 containers. I do tend to really pack these containers full if it's a plant that does not mind being divided, which anemone, I don't believe they mind being divided. Really shouldn't be a problem because you can just go in and kind of pluck apart the seedlings. You can just kind of divide the whole plant into chunks. That works really well for foxglove. That's what I usually do for that. But I'm just gonna do my best to spread the seeds out in the container as evenly as I can. This Swallowtail packages their seeds in these little like wax paper baggies, which is kind of nice because the seeds don't just come pouring out of the paper packet and kind of go all over the place. So I'm just going to get this open here. And they work really nice for if you don't use them all. Oh gosh, both ends were open. That's not good. Okay, so because this is real life, I will be honest. I opened up this wax paper baggie and both sides were opened. I guess, you know what? I opened the wrong side. I think I opened the bottom and I wasn't supposed to. I was just supposed to open the top here. And they all kind of fell out into, I'm hoping, into the container. So I don't really know where they're at, if they're like all on this side. But you know what? We're just gonna have to see what happens. I will keep you updated on the anemone. But in an ideal situation, I would have sprinkled a little bit into my hand and just kind of broadcasted them over the soil as evenly as I could. So you know what? We are just gonna have to wait and see what happens with this anemone. That is life, and I am not going to stress over it. All right, well, you just never know what's gonna happen when you're seed sowing. But next we are going to just make a tag for the anemone, if there is any anemone to be grown. But I'm going to write the name on the tag, and then I'm going to write the name on the container so that I have double protection and I know what's what in case, you know, the ink decides to wear off in all of the rain and whatever other weather we get. So let's go ahead and make the tag and label the container quick. Okay, I have my tag made for the anemone. And after you put your tag in, you just want to seal it up. And I find one of the easiest things is duct tape. I do also have a lot of painter's tape that I may try to use since I'm running really low on duct tape, but just peel off a nice long piece. It's probably about good. Whoops, got a little wet there. And then you're just going to seal your container shut. So start over at the handle and just kind of work your way around the container. Does not have to be perfect. It's gonna look pretty rough. And just give it a good seal. Just not my day today. My battery on my phone died, so I got cut off in the middle of assembling this container. But I think really I just missed writing on it. So I just be sure to write on the container and on the duct tape just for double security. I have my tag inside. You can write the date on the container if you want to know the date that you sowed the seeds, and that is it. So this is done. You leave the cap off to let the rainwater get into the container, and it just needs to sit outside. I'm gonna do that all at once I have all of these containers done. And I think that we're gonna move into my taller container. I have to find it somewhere around here and get that one done. So I'm gonna do the tall jug next, and I'm just gonna cut off the wrapper around the jug again, just to provide more light to get through to the seeds. This wrapper came off super easy. That was loud. And we're gonna do the same thing as the other jug. We're gonna leave a little handle at the back here, and I'm going to leave this one deep. So these are great for seeds that have long roots that don't like to be disturbed a lot or separated. And the sweet peas that I have are some of those seeds. They have really long roots. They like to be able to grow really long. So this is the perfect container for them. So I'm going to really come up to the top here to start my cut and just kind of leave a gap for the handle. Okay. So there we have our next container. And then again, I should have done this before I cut around the container. I don't know why I keep forgetting that, but we are going to poke some holes in the bottom. Now I did do a trial run of these containers just a little bit ago, and they must be a lot thicker than the other jugs. The hot glue gun just was not melting the plastic. So I'm gonna take the box cutter utility knife and just poke some holes with that. I'm gonna poke and wiggle it around a little bit to create a little bit of a hole. So those holes are made. And now let's get this guy filled up with some soil. Because this container is taller, I'm gonna kind of water as I go, just to be able to mix the water in, a little bit easier. All right, that should be good. So these seeds say to sow them 1/2 to 1 inch deep. So I'm going to probably do about 4 seeds per container. I think might be a good amount. Let's see if I can manage to get this done without spilling the seeds all over the place this time. So these sweet pea seeds are quite large. Let's see if I can do that, show you without them rolling off of my hand. I don't know if you can see that or not. So I'm just going to use my finger to gently push them into the soil. I'm gonna grow these on my bamboo trellises that I have here at the back of my house. I'm gonna try them in my grow bags this year to grow them up the trellises in the air and see how that works out for me along the back of the house. I don't know. It'll be an experiment. We will see. And then I'm going to just give them a little bit extra water here using my sprayer. I'm gonna go ahead and write on my plant tag and get this container all taped up and ready to go. Tag in, and then I don't know how much duct tape I have left here, but enough for one more container. Whoop. Nope, maybe not. I think I might have to go get my painter's tape and see how that works out, but let me just see if I can get part of this taped up. One thing about these tall containers is the tape goes around them very nicely. Okay, I'm not sure if this is gonna hold quite as good as the duct tape, but we will find out. I am all out of duct tape from all the other containers I did. I should have bought more, but I just didn't make it to the store. So let's just try the painter's tape, and that looks good. So we will just write on the container and on the tape. I am just gonna write sweet peas, since this is the only variety I'm growing is the Mammoth Choice Mix. So I should remember what that is. It's really the variety that I grow every year. It does really well in the heat for me, and I just think they're very beautiful. So there we go. That container is done. Okay, next up, I'm gonna use my gallon bag. I have not done this before, but it's pretty much the same concept. I'm gonna open it up, and you wanna make drainage holes in the bottom. So I think with this, we could just take it and use our scissors and just kind of snip the bottom so that there's like a little, I don't know if you can see that, but a little notch in the bottom. And I'm gonna just maybe do 3 of these. I really like the idea of a bag because it's easy. You don't have to save your milk jugs. It's not as much room. I'm not sure how I'm gonna like how the seeds grow. If it's not as sturdy of a container, so it might feel a little bit different, but we'll give it a go and see how it works. Okay, so let's start by getting it filled with soil. I'm gonna move my bag up here so I don't have to keep bending down. Be a little bit less messy too. I am gonna stop there because, I don't know, maybe a little bit more. I do want, the seedlings to have room to grow. Although I probably will have the bag open once they get a little bit taller, and then it'll probably be warm enough at that point that they won't need to be like inside the sealed bag. So we will see, but let's get this soil watered down. All right, mix it up real good. Okay, so the soil did compact a good amount, but I think, you know, the rule of thumb is usually like 3 inches, 3 or 4 inches, and I feel like that's probably enough. I'll just add a teeny bit more. So I'm gonna try my purple Verbena bonariensis in here. These are some more super tiny seeds that come in this little wax paper baggie. I've already sown 2 milk jugs of this, so I may just sprinkle the rest of this into the bag. This one I opened properly. I only opened the top and not the bottom. So I think we're just gonna broadcast sow these, if you can see how tiny these are. I'm just gonna sprinkle them all over the dirt, nice and evenly. And then I can thin them later if I want to. So you can barely see them on top of the soil there, and these seeds in particular say to barely cover. So I am just gonna add a very thin layer of the potting soil on top. You could do something like vermiculite, which I don't have on hand. That's another option, but from past experience, this method also works, where you just kind of sprinkle a real thin layer, and hopefully we'll be good to go. Because these seeds are so small and I don't want them to get disturbed from the watering can, I'm gonna use this sprayer and just spray them down real good with water. Okay, that should be good. And then I think basically just want to mimic the milk carton and leave a little opening at the top for moisture to get in. So just a little opening. And one thing I forgot to do was make my label for inside, but I will do that in a minute here. And I'm just gonna label the outside of the bag. Verbena. My marker is kind of dying on me here. Got a little bit dried out. I'm just gonna say Verbena B because I will know what that is. And there you go. I'll just make a marker for inside. Okay, so the last container that we are gonna try is this aluminum foil pan. This, like I said before, is a great container if you have really tiny seeds like these foxglove seeds here. These are actually pelleted. So there's 25 seeds in a pack. So pelleted means that they have a coating on them to make them easier to handle and more visible. But I have another packet somewhere around here, right over here across the table. So these are just a basic variety of foxglove, and these actually are not pelleted, and they are just super, super teeny tiny. So maybe I will use this pack for this container so that I can just broadcast them all in this container and These might be better to start in a milk jug where I can be a little more precise and I don't need quite as much space to just kind of broadcast a bunch of tiny little seeds. So I think that we're going to change and use this mixed colors foxglove for this container. First, as with all the other containers, we are going to make some drainage holes. We don't need to cut around the container at all, like the jugs, thankfully. Just make some drainage holes. So I'm just going to use my utility knife and poke some holes. I think maybe I'll do 6. That should be good. Let me grab my soil. I'm just gonna try to dump it in since the bag isn't very full. Whoops. Flying all over the place. Dirt flying everywhere. I am a very messy gardener. All right, so I need more water. I'll be right back. All right, so let's get this soil nice and moist. Mix it all together real good. I'm gonna add in more soil. It's already getting compacted. I loved these foxglove in my shady, like kind of a partial shady border out back here. Last year, they were so pretty. So the more foxglove I can have in my garden, the better. I'll try to show you how tiny these seeds are. Oh, there's a bunch that got kind of stuck in there. This was kind of a smaller pack, but without dropping the seeds. I don't know if you can see them or not. They're super, super tiny. And so I am just gonna take them and again, kind of sprinkle them over the soil like I did with the verbena. And this will hopefully allow them to grow not quite as compact together. And maybe I'll be able to even separate out some individual plants. I don't know, we'll see. But like I said before, I usually just kind of divide my foxglove in chunks rather than trying to pluck out individual plants. I find that they do just as good that way. And then, let's see. I don't know if it gives much information about if they should be covered or not, which usually the smaller the seed, the least it's required for them to be covered. They usually need a good amount of light to germinate. So I am just gonna kind of lightly press them into the soil. I'm gonna give them another good watering on top. And then to cover the seeds, I am going to use plastic wrap. I don't really know. I think that's a good option, what you're supposed to do. So I'm just going to cover the whole thing and then I'm going to poke some holes in the top to allow the moisture to continue to get into these seeds. If you had a plastic dome that came with your container, you could use that. I do not, which I may need to figure something out because the soil is gonna be touching this plastic wrap. So it won't give it a lot of room for growth. So I may have to look for a dome. But this will be a good, interim solution while the seeds aren't really actively growing yet. Just kind of give just enough humidity, moisture, and warmth to stimulate their growth. And then I will see what I can find. I'm just gonna clip some holes with my scissors in the top here. And I will definitely keep an eye on these just to make sure they're getting enough moisture. But that is just a good way to use aluminum foil pans that you might have sitting around. It's kind of like making a flour casserole. And I will label the top of these. I'll put a marker in them as well. And we're gonna go sit all of these containers out into the snow so they can begin their process of cold stratification and then hopefully growing real soon here. All of my containers are set outside. Everything is looking good. I have all these containers over here that I did earlier. Give you a really quick preview of some of the flowers that I've already sown. And I'm gonna tape this guy down, secure it more so that plastic wrap doesn't just blow away. But, and I'm falling into the snow. But it'll be good to see how these containers do. I'm very excited. I have some more to get done. Hopefully today and tomorrow I can get all that completed. And then lots of garden maintenance to be done here in the spring. Well, we are going to wrap up this video, but thank you so much for joining me today for the past couple of days with the kind of snow garden maintenance that we did and the winter seed starting. I hope that you enjoyed it and maybe learned something new about winter sowing. If you have used any other methods, any other containers that you like to use, please let me know. I would love to know. I have a lot of garden maintenance coming up, just a lot of things to do in the garden. I might do a little bit in my home as well. Just a lot of different things that might be coming up in videos. I don't know exactly, if I'll have a video out every single week to start. I'm gonna kind of ease back into things a little bit here, but I hope to see you very soon and that you are hanging in there with the cold, and hopefully, fingers crossed, we get some warmer weather really soon. So, all right, take care. Bye.